Oconee County Planning Commission this Monday, April 15th, 2019. Our first order of business is invocation by our county. And
absolutely. Pray with me if you'd like to. Father, thank you for the day that you've given us and this evening. I pray that we would not waste time, but that we would make good use of the time that you give us. Take time for granted. Precious gift. Lack lackness in our duties, but that we would, with every opportunity that you give us, do the most with it. By your guidance, by your strength and wisdom and power. And I pray for the Planning Commission tonight as they cast a vision, citizens for this county now, shortly in the future, and in the long run. By your wisdom, can we do that?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
okay, y'all all have the minutes of the 4/1/2019 meeting. If I have a motion, approve.
Make a motion that be approved.
I'll second.
Any corrections or spelling errors?
Not that I could find.
All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do we have any public comment, Mr. Adam?
No, sir, no public comment at all.
Okay. We'll move into item number 6, the public hearing for 2019-11. You explain that to us, sir?
Certainly. Back in December, I believe, council voted to split up two departments, split up a department, community development. They split it into building codes and planning and zoning. That went through, they split it up. However, we need to change the back of the house of that. So what this amendment does is it just changes the language that says community development director. It changes it to planning director. So it changes anything that says the community development director shall be in charge of permitting plats. Now it says planning director. It will not affect in any way, shape, or form the rule of law. It won't affect the way, shape, or form how citizens interact with the law. It simply changes who's responsible for said law.
Okay, public comment, public hearing is open. Have any signed up?
No, sir, no one signed up. If I may point out here, 219, right? 219, right? So on this, so council has already seen the first draft of this. At 32-219, there were some edits put in there. This is the clean version of it. I don't expect you to read this wall of text, but basically I replaced some language in there with planning director that should have been left alone. We'll call it a scrivener's error, but I was just going through it and I changed it. I can show you on the unclean version here, right here. So this is 32-219 as well. I messed something up in transposing some stuff, so this shouldn't have been changed. This should have been left how it was. So you could recommend, if you saw fit, to strike this 32-219 from your recommendation to council, which would be my recommendation to y'all. It should just be left alone how it is currently in the code.
So you want somebody to make that motion to go ahead and strike that, obviously?
Did y'all close the public hearing for 11? So you probably want to do that first.
Okay. Since we have no one to speak, you can have written comments and give them to, Adam. At this time, I'll close the public hearing for 2019-11 now. Mr. Mike.
You want us to make a motion that that be excluded, is that correct?
The cleanest way to do it, for both this one for 12 and, or for 11 and 12, 2019, 11 and 12, have the public hearings, y'all could issue just one letter saying, we held a public hearing, no comments, or maybe there will be a comment on 12, but no comments. We, are good with the suggested amendments. We would request, however, as to, ordinance 2019-11, that subsection 32-219 be stricken, that language, because the amendment is not necessary. You can just include that in the letter, and I'll make sure the council gets it. So the motion at this point would be a motion to direct the chair to issue a letter approving this amendment, 2019-11, but striking section 32-219. Make sense?
And it's not just the stuff in blue, but the entire,
He just highlighted that. It's the whole.
it's the
He
whole
didn't mean to
document.
put that section in there. It got convoluted when he was, I think he was fact changing and.
But it was in the original, was it not?
It's currently in the code of ordinances, it's full block language, and it says the right people should be in charge of who it is. I just started playing with it, and it managed to work its way in there. So basically, we're just not gonna mess with that how it is. If that's not how it looks in the code of ordinances, I can certainly bring that up if you like.
None of this is new. None of these sections are new, and none of it makes a material difference in how the ordinances function. They're all housekeeping to change the titles.
Yes. And I read the original, and the new looks the same. What was sent over to council was everything that was in the original, but now you're saying take it out altogether.
219, they will have to take it out. You're just noting that you're good if you want to say it. If you don't say it, I'm gonna recommend that they take it out. But if you want to say it, we see that this is done in error, and we recommend that you strike this by amendment when you take it back up.
But you're not striking 32-219, right? You're simply striking the changes.
Just a change.
That's correct.
Just striking that from, so this is an attachment, and the attachment listed all the places where community development director was listed. So it's gonna be removed from that section and won't be affected.
Because
So
that deals
stay
with building
as is.
codes as opposed to,
Well, I don't know how it ended up in the way, the way it did, actually. It added building codes, but it actually added community development director and kind of phased out county engineer. And it was just by some magic that Adam did that this wording got the way that it was. It's not the way it's written in the code now. The way it's in the code now is fine. It doesn't need to be changed.
so we're not striking it from the code.
No,
We're
no.
striking the change that was proposed.
Yeah, you're striking this from this ordinance. So
Gotcha.
It stays as it is in the code, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
We'll take care of it.
I'll make a motion that we strike 32-219 and move forward to council the remaining Exhibit B as recommended by our planning director.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, the public hearing for 2019-12 is open at this time. We have no one signed up to speak. If there's any written comments or statements, you can give them to Mr. Adam. This time I'm gonna close the public hearing for 2019-12. And it's good, right? We don't have to. Now, we also need the motion to send a letter.
Yeah, you can just do it in one letter, just say, move to approve, 2019-12 as written, send that forward to the council.
I'll make that motion. So we approve ordinance 2019-12 and move it forward to council.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Just for purpose of clarity, it'll just be a very short letter that Adam works up with Mr. Pearson. He signs off on what y'all voted on, and council will have that in their backup material when it gets put back on the agenda for second reading.
And now we go to Comprehensive Plan 2030. Before we start our discussion on this, I want to let Mr. Mike, he's wanting to talk about the executive summary. So I'm going to let him speak at this time, and then I'll get you, Adam, to give us stuff, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mike.
As you know, we've talked about the executive summary several times, and we haven't been able to get much support or specific direction in which way to go with the executive summary. But I want to come forward with a new proposal tonight. And what I'm proposing is that we form a committee to oversee the development of the executive summary. Now, why do we need the executive summary? It is basically a snapshot of the 350 or 375 page comprehensive plan, and it is an excellent advertising tool for the county. What we'll be doing is delegating this task, which is a very basic and accepted management tool. The basic advantage when you do something like this is that you have more time to deal with other issues and subjects that come forward. I'm saying that this committee will now have additional time perhaps to deal with goals and strategies, additional time to review the element text as they come forward, and other topics that are going to be added to the agenda as time goes forward. If approved, the Planning Commission will be given periodic updates on the progress of the development of the executive summary. I'm suggesting right now that the committee be made up of basically two members, myself and Mike Johnson. Mike gets wrapped up in his business and periodically may not be able to attend a meeting, and so Alex Vassy has volunteered to step in for him. Additional members will be the planning department staff and Orion. Why me and Mike? First of all, I volunteered. And I have a background in technical writing, and I've got a pretty good idea of what a strong advertising tool the executive summary can be. I'm going to let Mike say a few words, and Frankie, when Mike is finished, I'd like to have the floor back again to make a motion if we can.
Good.
I got roped into it. Actually, Adam had enclosed or included in this material several executive summaries, and our last comprehensive plan didn't have an executive summary. It was just the whole big meat and potatoes. And we're going to come up with another document that's a lot of meat and potatoes, which is great for economic development, great for businesses, but for the general citizen of the county, this was just a big dog and pony show of information that we did for the state. We looked at several executive summaries, and Mike had looked at executive summaries from many different counties, and it actually is cool because it does paint a picture of, or a vision of, or this snapshot, as Mike said, of where the county's going. And it also summarizes very quickly and neatly the information that they can find in the bulk of those documents. And so whereas last meeting didn't get all excited about it, I do think there is a need for it. And as Mike and I were talking, I thought that the committee could be whoever we wanted it to, but then we realized that if we have 4 people that are on it, now all of a sudden we have a quorum, and we might as well have not formed a subcommittee. And so we said, it needs to be limited down below 4 members. And so that was where we kind of came up with what we came up with.
I'd like to make a motion at this time to create a committee of less than 4 members from the Planning Commission to oversee the creation of an executive summary with support from Planning Department staff and the Orion Group. As the executive summary develops, the committee will report on their progress for review and approval from the Planning Commission.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Are we not paying them to do this? Are we not paying Alta to do this?
It is in the budget to do this, yes, ma'am.
So the biggest deal is when you look at the various counties, there's 14 jillion ways to put this summary together. And Alta potentially could be looking to our direction as to how, or they may simply say, hey, here's 3 different options, or here's 10 different options that we can narrow down to 3. But when you look at the various counties, they're done in a lot of different ways. And so this would be kind of helping maybe direct or guide Alta to say, this looks better than that, or this is easier to read than that.
We can't accomplish that same goal by taking them like these and saying, this is kind of what we are looking towards?
Potentially so. But then it would be a matter of us coming together and reading through the 20 or 30 or 40 county different setups to make that determination.
Can we have time to think about this instead of just making a spontaneous decision tonight? I would rather table it and think on it, and we can decide next time. I mean, I think everybody should have input in it. I don't think it should be 2 members having input in the document that most people are gonna see.
Everyone will have input. The purpose of having Mike and Mike do it is they are gonna take time to look through all of these different counties and their executive summaries, from what I understand. And then they'll bring back, they may bring back 4 to us and say, okay, these are the 4, we've looked at all of them, and they'll tell us what they've done. And they've looked at all of them, these 4 are the best out of the, say, 20 that they've looked at. That will keep the rest of the commission focused on goals, objectives, strategies throughout the rest of the comp plan. And then we'll come together and vote on which one of the 4 that they have looked at and said that these are the best ones out of the 4. That's the purpose of having this committee.
So y'all are only gonna do a format, not what is actually going in the summary?
Right.
Well, we may look very closely at what goes in the summary, and we're not talking just about the format, but we're talking about the layout of it. We may take apart from, say, format A and C and put it into our format to see what it looks like. We'll be coming forward periodically to say, this is what we recommend. And if people have heartburn about it, then we can see if we can resolve the differences. I've seen some really good ones that seem to really illustrate the strong points of their county, and that's what we need to do. We've never had one before, and this is a chance to really advertise the county in a very positive way.
I would agree that when Mike and I were talking about this, I want Alta to, that's what we're paying them for ultimately. But in reading the way different counties had done it, everybody has done it differently. And so I don't want to just leave it to Alta to make that decision for us without us having input of, these were some of the things that we liked. If everybody wants to read through however many counties that we can get a hold of, then we should all do that. But just in reading through them, there were several cool factors. For example, in one of the counties, it had challenges to overcome in a list, and it had assets to build upon, and it kind of was almost a identification and a solution on that summary page. Another one, and I didn't necessarily care for anything else out of it, but that was one of the things that was kind of neat. On another one, it was cool that it talked about actually gave support. It said, sidewalk and road maintenance and open space. Over 70% of respondents felt there should be significant increases in investment in sidewalks. Well, as we go through this whole document, there may be something on there that I'm going, why in the world would we spend money on that? But if I read something that said 70% of the respondents in the county wanted something like that, then that gives support to those things. And so I really liked that in a summary from this one. And then there was one that I read that I thought was entirely too busy, that it gave way too much detail for a summary. And I'm going, gosh, I hope Alta doesn't come anywhere close to doing that, with the exception that it brought in a couple of outside entities and keyed in on, one of the ones was their economic development plan. Kind of keyed in on what was going on with their industrial park. And I thought that was a cool feature. But I don't know that we would necessarily do that as a whole committee, or if a smaller committee would be made up that pulls some of these things together and says, here's a whole host of ideas that we've seen. Which ones of these do we want to go to Alta with and say, these, our group as a whole thought were important to make sure we included in the summary.
I looked at probably over 50 of these things, went through the homework assignment that Adam gave us, and came up with those 3. Here's some other things that I pulled from others. How can you get involved from San Antonio, Texas? The consequences of inaction from Teton County. Priority projects, how to report progress. You can pull different things from different executive summaries. And that's basically what a committee would be doing, is trying to pull together something that we can come up with that's a consensus of opinion. We'll be coming up here periodically to review this with you.
Let me ask you something, like one that you brought up, priority projects. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if y'all would be deciding what those priority projects are, or you're just saying, okay, we want priority projects as one of the things in our executive summary, and then we as a group decide what those priorities are.
That would be my belief of what this committee would do.
Okay, I just think,
Is what kind of formatting, because right now, we didn't have it in our last one as an executive summary to format behind. And in looking at these various counties, Alta, it may be that Alta comes up and says, no, this is the way we do it, it's the way we've done it, it seems to work well. And we're all good with that, and if that's the case, then I don't have a problem with it that way. However, looking at so many counties and so many counties doing it so many different ways, I do think that we need to give some guidance to Alta as to, these were some of the things we found to be beneficial in executive summaries that were done. Please fill in the blanks to make ours look like that.
I'm all on board with the format thing. I just think the actual content, like of priorities or whatever, needs to be a collective
Absolutely.
decision between all of us.
I could, since you didn't make a motion to table it yet, so just back, we're still discussing the merits of the motion, and just, y'all are probably cognizant of this, but even if it's not a quorum, it'll still be a public meeting, if you officially establish it as a committee. So even if it's just 3 of you all, you'll need to set an agenda, give notice, have minutes, and if another 1 or 2 you show up, you can turn it into a quorum for the planning commission, which will make that a meeting for the planning commission, which will also need to be noticed as a special meeting. Practical considerations, not things that you can't overcome, but in light of the Freedom of Information Act, things that you need to be mindful of, will have to do. Whereas if you just met, and 2 of you said, hey, we want to bring this back to the planning commission, that's different. But you're established as official committee, it would have to be a public meeting.
And if anyone wants to take my place, please throw your name in the hat.
You want to take it, please?
No, format-wise, I am good with y'all doing it. I just think all of us, not just me, all of us need input. on
Absolutely.
What the priorities are.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing.
My thought of this would be, here's some formatting that looked interesting. These 14 things we found interest in, are they of interest as a whole? As opposed to all of us sitting here with 40 different things saying, line 1 sounds good, line 4 doesn't.
That's what we're trying to do, is to preserve time and get through a lot of this formatting and whatever. And then when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, if it gets down to, say we decide to list priorities or whatever, then yeah, we're gonna have to come forward and see if we can get a consensus of opinion.
And I'd like to say thank y'all for being willing to spend the time doing it. And I would say that if Alta comes in and says, oh, well, no, we always do it this way, then please, as our committee, say, well, no. We were appointed to find things that we liked, and we expect you to be able to accommodate since we hired you.
So even though it has to be a publicized meeting, minutes taken by someone. We still want this to be a committee, or we just want,
Who else is gonna be on it if you just, I mean, you're not really gonna have a committee of just two people, or, I mean,
I had suggested Mike answered the phone, and this Mike, the planning department, and Orion. Those are the people that are
Yeah.
doing the
And
writing.
and Alex, I think, was
Alex
of
was gonna
interest.
step in for you if you're not able to participate. So essentially, it would be two members of the planning commission.
If I, just for clarity, I wouldn't be a member of the committee. The planning department wouldn't be a member of the committee. We would certainly be there to act as your staff and whatnot, but we would just want, just for clarity's sake, it would just be a couple members of the planning commission, if that's correct. If you have other entities you wish to invite, we can of course make a motion to invite that, but at the moment, it's,
Would it be
hanging out.
easier, rather than having it as a committee, as to just several people volunteering to bring forth ideas to this group?
because I don't think Orion would or, Alta, whoever it is, wouldn't actually be a member of a committee, because you're presenting the stuff to them. So I think it would basically just be coming down to the two of you anyway. So I don't really, if Mr. Roots says it's okay, I think it would be better for us just to say, you two get together if that's what you want to do, and bring it back to us when you have something. Is that?
That's easier. It doesn't have the official moniker of a committee, but the same result, I would assume. You wouldn't have to go through the public note. You can meet at McDonald's or Prest, or, I don't want to endorse any other restaurants, but any place. So wherever you want to go and meet and talk about it, and other people could be doing the same thing.
Then I'm perfectly fine with that. Again, to me, it was just a matter of who's going to disseminate this information and find out things that look interesting, worthwhile to bring forth to this group,
okay,
as far as formatting.
we still have a motion and a second on the table for this, so we will have to take a vote, or they
Or
can
table it.
or table it.
Okay, just me personally, if they just get together and discuss it, and then a couple other people get together and discuss it, then when they come together and discuss it, are we not all right in the middle of all 40 of the things all over again, without the benefit of a recommendation of a few people who dedicated a great deal of time to studying what they thought might be the best points of certain plans?
Sure,
certain
and
formats?
that would be, I guess, the one benefit of having the official committee, but nonetheless, you still could have two people doing that, and Ms. Lyles or Mr. Gramling or whomever else could meet with another person and have their counterpoints. They're just not the official committee, but they could do the same thing. I don't know that you completely avoid that hurdle by making an official committee. It's really just, it's however you want to do it. It is more difficult for meeting purposes, and I just want you to be aware of the lack of alacrity in setting up a committee to do this. But it certainly is something that can be done, and it has, and it's a good purpose. I see it. I see
I'm just trying to keep it out of this for the time being, since we're dealing with 1.2.7.4 or whatever, that this is simply, how are we going to handle it? Once we get all this information put together, come October, how are we going to handle putting this in a summary? And so for somebody to start working on that now without it being discussed at every meeting.
So can I make the recommendation to table the committee recommendation or whatever it is, and then make a recommendation that Mike and Mike conduct this research or whatever and bring it back to us?
So what you'd want to do is to make a motion to table the motion that's on the floor. And so then y'all would take up that motion, and if it passes, it's tabled, so the motion to create the committee then is just suspended until your next meeting. Then there's no further action taken with this committee until y'all meet again. What could happen is if you make that motion and passes, this format could be made perhaps a little bit more clear, perhaps it could be put in writing, what the vision of this committee would do, maybe the parameters of what it's gonna do, content versus form, maybe it could be made a little bit more clear so the whole commission has a better idea of what they're voting for, so they don't feel like they're getting robbed of a voice, and obviously the voice of folks who they represent.
So could we do like a formal letter or something saying that we that we ask that they do this, like in lieu of the committee? Can we do something in writing saying that Mike and Mike are gonna do this?
No, I
Don't need that.
think you get into a quasi-committee anyways. I think the best way to do it, if you wanna get there, is probably, they can always do, and without a committee, just do this. Any of y'all can, it's just not four of you. But any less than a quorum can do this, so you don't have to, take any official action. But if you wanna have an official committee, then you have to have that vote, and that's what's on the floor right now. What I think may ease concerns and may help the whole process out is maybe to make a vote to table it, and then at the next meeting, Mr. Smith, he's the architect of the idea, maybe outline, this is where I see the committee going and how it's a help, and where it's not going, maybe addressing some of your concerns, and then the motion will be back on the floor next meeting, and y'all can address it. That's just I don't have any dog in the hunt about the committee or not, it's just a practical way to address it so everyone knows what the committee's doing, and have an official committee to do this, which is a very important task. As y'all stated, that's probably what's gonna be read the most.
We have a motion on the floor to table the previous,
Did you make a motion? She didn't make the motion yet.
I thought you did.
We'll act like I didn't. Just tell me what I need to do.
David, can I just withdraw it at this time?
Yeah, that's the same effect.
All right, I'll withdraw this motion at this time, and we'll take it up at the next meeting.
I am all on board with you two doing this. I just don't know that we need another committee to do it, of two people.
If anybody else wants to get involved, they can get involved.
Up to 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Adam.
If I may, can you all take the microphones and just scoot away from you and scoot them closer?
You're too smart for that.
Closer?
The whole microphone, yes, please. Yes, sir. Everyone, let it close.
Mike, you need to
Just when
put
I-
your
when I do
microphone up just a little bit.
I don't write great notes when I'm here, so I tend to listen to them.
This way.
Closer, closer.
Closer. Closer to you. Okay, item B. Mr. Adam?
So, if there's the potential for a committee, so Carol and Cheryl, our consultants, asked us to do some kind of vision statements and things of that nature. However, if there's some doubt as to whether we do the executive summary as a whole or as a committees and things of that nature, this may be, oh my gosh, I just need to do this thing. This is too many pages long. So it's a visioning statement. It's kind of a little exercise. But if you all may end up doing this as a committee, this may be something to do more at the committee level or a smaller level versus a whole visioning exercise at this point in time. Or we can do it now too and incorporate it in. But since the executive summary seems to be a little bit up in the air at the moment as to exactly what we're doing, it may stand to wait. Or we can do it now, up to y'all. Or you can do it on your own free will, hand it back to me. But basically, we're trying to come up with a vision statement, and it is a process. So it's up to y'all, if y'all like to look at it now or move on to the element itself.
I wrote mine out, so I'm not saying anything.
Let's move on to letter C, and we'll do that part with the executive summary.
I was gonna say, can I give us some homework and request that each member of the planning commission come back next week with a vision statement that they would like to see as part of what is incorporated into the planning commission's vision statement?
Or do we want to turn them into Adam and let Adam summarize?
No, I'm gonna make a motion not to do that.
I mean,
No,
let's come with some ideas.
I think if you all kind of work, if you all want to do it individually, it's on page, about middle of the packet here, after visioning statement here, PC work session on vision statement. And I did attach this to the backup material that I sent you an email about. If you all kind of want to work on that based upon, just pull out words, pull out, phrases, and one or two statements. And if you all want some homework to do this kind of activity, then I think at that point, if we throw them all in a pile, once you all have kind of on equal footing done the same, provide the same words, the same stuff, then we look at it. I bet you we'll come up with a lot of the same stuff. I mean, not the exact same, but I bet you the end result will be able to a lot easier than a 2 or 3 paragraph vision statement you each make. So that's just my thoughts on the matter, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Come with what you want included, kind of answer those questions. And even if we said emailing them to you and then you print them in our material as, anonymous, don't let anybody know who thought what, by any means.
Gotcha.
And then we can come up together, because I'm like you, I think the essence of what we'll all say will be so similar, it'll just be a matter of wording.
Certainly. If you all want to provide that to me, I just need it before next Wednesday. So you got 10 days. And we can kind of look at it then, and we'll see what people have provided, and we just keep working through it too. It won't be a final look at it. Nothing we look at is final. Everything's a living process. So.
I think it's a great exercise, because while I agree that I think that we might be very similar, we might not. And that will be just as interesting.
All right.
Is that what everyone wants to do?
Write it down and turn it in.
Gotcha.
All right. So now we go into the natural resources.
Yes, sir.
Start up where we left off, right?
Just about, sir, if I may. You all had a few questions. So, Mr. Pearson, on the first page, there's some data regarding the climate of the area, and you asked if we get more local data. I went back to their data source, and I asked their data source for their data source. Our weather broadcasters here are NOAA weather stations. They are. So there's one up somewhere over here, one at the airport, one down the south part of the county. They take all 3 numbers, they average it. That's the average temperature for Oconee County. That's where they get this from. So I just included a copy of the email saying they get all their stuff from NOAA. So while it's a third party, I understand why, because if you go to NOAA's data, it's pages of just numbers and charts. This weatherusa.com just makes it pretty and a little easier to pull out what you're looking for. I've also included, right after that email, basically the goals section from the 2010 comp plan. Because Mr. Johnson, you mentioned how can there be so few goals? Well, because there were so few goals. There was 10 natural resource objectives for the future from the 2010. I'm about middle of the.
Just keep going. No, other way. No.
I meant to put tabs on them. I definitely thought about doing it.
Natural resources, 46, 47. It's only it's just past the analysis. Okay, there's that one. Right there.
Okay. These 10 were our previous.
They're actually our current ones to be.
Our current one, yes.
Current ones, right? So the analysis with that, I include the analysis with it just because that would, I'd lose one piece of paper here. So your question was, why are there so few? Well, that's because there's so few. and there's some of them are decent ones. Some of them we have a properly maintained GIS system, Geographic Information System. Lisa, if you've ever had to use her, she's great. Yeah, and these are all our current objectives, things of that nature. Also, so the next page after that is the start of the element. There was some talk by the commission about some of the language involving slope and septic tanks. So I believe, I went back to them and we had some conversations. So I think we have 3 options involving that language, since it was such it seemed like very important point. We could delete it out of the comp plan. There's nothing stopping us from deleting it out. We could use some of the language, some it's highlighted in purple. Or we can leave it alone. It seems like there's those 3 options. The leave it alone didn't really seem like that's what you all were kind of going for, so we kind of adjusted some of the language. Or we could just delete all the information involving slope out. That's up to y'all. I know we didn't want to get too much in the weeds on the actual data, so I'm kind of looking at page 6-4 of the element.
Got this with it.
And then it goes on through 6, 7, 6, 8, 6, 9. It kind of softens it, does not limit the use of such systems and things of that nature. But, no one's married to this language. It's comprehensive plan just by nature of the beast. So it's up to you all what we'd like to do with it, because I don't want anybody here to be like unhappy with any one huge section, especially since you all are very representative of the population.
I am familiar with slope and elevational regulation. You see things, I think one of the things that started in North Carolina was up in Boone, North Carolina. They built this huge hotel on the very top of the mountain, and so for miles you see nothing but this box up on top of the mountain. And that played a big factor. I don't think that we have those kind of slope or elevational issues here, at least not at the moment, where there's a desire to create a hotel on top of the mountain that can be seen for 40 miles. And as far as slope and as it relates to septic systems, I would hate for us to publish something that scares somebody when our slope regarding septic is nothing compared to Highlands or Cashers or just up the mountain from us, where they would laugh if we were concerned about some of the slope areas. I'd rather just leave it to the experts with DHEC to say, hey, you need enough acreage to make this happen, or not, rather than us putting something in black and white that starts concerning somebody of, oh my gosh, what should I do?
So what are you recommending?
I would like us to go back to Alta and say where we're talking about that 8% or 60% or X amount of the community is not easily buildable, that information be taken out.
And I'm sorry, I would say we don't need, this is what you have here, I think is it's informative without being frightening. And we are looking we are looking into the future. We are not saying this is what we have done or we have been able to do or we can do now. We are looking 10 years into the future. And we simply need to be aware of, as does anyone else who wants to build or develop in Oconee, that we're not the beach. We do have slope. And albeit might not be as high as Cashers or Highlands, it is something to think about when you build or develop. You know, the wording here is not at all intimidating or heavily slanted to discourage development. It simply is letting folks know that there might have to be some site work. There might have to be some retention. I don't know. I liked it the way it is, and I hate to take out anything that does at least make people think about the fact that we do have some, well, we have slope in the entire county. Some greater than others, but.
So if I'm reading this right, if we left this in here, it's saying that 50% of our property is not even usable for commercial.
Which you looking at, ma'am? What page you at?
On 6-7, where it says like 26.5% of the county has slope between 17 and 24%, and then there's, and then 27% of the county's land is 25% or greater. So if we left this in here, if we did the low-density residential not suited for commercial or industrial development, that means we have no commercial or industrial development in half of the county.
So all this came from the USDA. This is just transcription of data. So we can certainly take it out. It's not, we can take it out. It's not a big deal. However, the data still exists, even if we delete it.
Right, but like Mike said, that determination can be made by the experts, as in DHEC, not us, to whether it's suitable for a septic tank, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, DHEC will put a septic tank on just about anything. I mean, if you.
I was gonna say, that we're not saying you can't put it there. We're saying think about the slope.
So this is what the USDA soil survey said. And it's, I mean, if we choose not to put it in there, it doesn't, I talked to them at length regarding the legality of the document. They don't think that removing it would make it extra legal or anything like that. It wouldn't affect them putting their brand on it as far as saying this is a legal document. But it's up to y'all if y'all want to include this information or not include the information. But it still exists out there.
My concern is that I don't know that the consumer, which this is designed for, knows what a 25% slope looks like. As far as the angle of the topography of the ground on a 25% slope, what that even looks like, and to make a statement that, hey, it's not suitable for any type of intense development, I just don't know what good or bad that necessarily says. If a developer is going to make a judgment call as to whether it's feasible to put a road in there, the DOT is going to, and the county is going to tell them how that road would have to be instructed, and cost is going to prohibit them from building in certain slopes. Profitability, there's a jillion other factors that regulate something other than simply telling a consumer, hey, 25% slope, you better be careful. Well, they don't know what 25% slope means, or 24% slope, or 17% slope, or anything else. To me, yes, it's data out there. I don't know that it's beneficial data for this book. That was all my point. To me, it's just verbiage. But that was just one of opinion.
I could just throw that when I'm looking at, just bear in mind that while it's not, all the wording in here is not supposed to read like the Code of Laws or the Oconee County Code of Ordinances. It does. Our ordinances that we develop afterward generally need to track with the language that's in the comp plan. Not like, because this language is in here, not suitable for any type of intense development, doesn't mean that, especially with the saving sentence above that table, may be appropriate with site work. In my mind, if I wanted to challenge somebody who's wanting to do some sort of intense development on a slope at 25% or greater, I might pull this comp plan out and say, hey, this is the county's vision for this. The county generally has to say, if you get into land use restrictions, in this type of area, county generally has to stay within the confines of the comp plan as kind of the enabling document, so that it's not that this is without any effect, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's not surplus language. So I'm just saying, be mindful if you include it in there. This is not terrible, you know, in the development sense, especially in light of those such development may be possible with appropriate site work. It still does have an effect because comp plan forms the basis for land use restrictions, guidance that y'all may put in place, county council rather, may put in place going forward. So it's just something to be mindful of.
So we need it in there so that we can tell people what they can't do.
No, we need it in there just to let people, to ensure that people are aware of what it may require.
Just aware of it.
It's just, I mean, you know,
But then the council can use it to pass ordinances that says you can't. Because it's in here, they can use that language and say, well, they're saying in the comp plan that 25% or greater, the lands are not suitable for intense development. You're going to put a development there and it's 26%.
I think that may be, that's what I was trying to avoid. I wanted to bring up the issue. That may be too strict of a reading of how the comp plan plays into ordinances, and especially with the county being control-free. But an argument could be made, certainly by an outside party, that someone may be going against the comp plan. But if the wording is right, if y'all want to put in here, hey, we've got these types of slopes generally do not lend themselves to this kind of development, and this is how we see things, you know, in general terms like that, then making them aware of that, then that's one thing. But if you put down, hey, we don't want development, put it in different words, we don't want development of any kind of intense, and define what intense development is, define what suitable means on a slope of greater than 25%, then that has a lot of hanging power going forward. I don't think this language is there. I don't think it's that strict, but it's just something as you work through this whole comp plan. I just was throwing it out now because I'm gonna leave shortly, and wasn't here all last week and won't be here as y'all march through all this. It's just something to keep in mind. The document does have some binding, some precedential value to it.
Could we have a definition of slope?
In my mind, I thought that was a geometric done deal. I mean,
Well, it's 25%, 25 feet of rise in 100 feet.
But see, I wouldn't have known that, so.
Well, I was guessing at that, but I'm a pretty technical guy, and I didn't know. I would like to see that definition in this book if we're gonna put percentage slope.
Because it's not degrees, they're not the same.
Most people should know a slope means the ground is not level, it's going downhill or something to that effect. I don't know whether we have to get a definition in here. I mean, I'm pretty sure you go to any farmer in the county and go, is your land slope? And you go, yep, goes down
But
that way.
I bet you he can't tell you if it's 8%, 16%, 17%, 25%.
He just knows he don't want to drive his tractor down there.
So if we're gonna break it down into these percentages, then they need to know how we're calculating that.
See, I think, I see Mr. Gramling's point. If you're gonna get something that's
Sure.
gonna have some binding effect to it, and it's not just a making aware of, then a definition that's workable, is important.
Well, we really,
I would advise that you don't go there with this kind of general document, but it's just, again, something I'm just saying.
well, we don't want to make this a binding statements or nothing. We just want to make this as information that our land does slope. They can look up what slope means if they don't know what a slope is. And that way, it don't bite us in the butt later on down the line.
well, I was gonna say, and it'd be real easy. The first time you use the term, just simply put 13.5 feet of rise over 100 feet of distance. That's simple. Put it in there the first time, and then from then on, they can figure it. Not that you can see that over 100 acres, but necessary, unless you have a lot of experience at it.
But then you're going into
I can
what?
certainly see defining it. I just can't see not letting people be aware of the fact that there will be certain site requirements if you want to build on this, and we're not saying you can't. There's no place in here that says that they cannot. We are simply saying you need to be aware of the fact there may be additional site requirements. And from a legal standpoint, all right, let's say we take it all out. And then somebody goes up and builds on a 27% slope, and something collapses, and then they sue and say, well, you didn't warn me, you didn't tell me I had to do something special to do this. You know,
That wouldn't, the comp plan's not gonna save us in that case.
well, but I'm saying, do we not need to make people at least think, since they don't do it very often, about what it takes to,
That'd be a matter of the building codes department to work with, but I get what you're saying, but I think that, I don't wanna put my foot further in here, but.
Oh, go ahead.
It's just, I just wanted to get you thinking about the contours of this document, and the more strict you get, it's gonna have an effect, and that's really all I was saying. The more vision casting you do in general terms, I think that's where you're going, so you're planning to the future, and if you're gonna note, hey, we've got slopey land, and sometimes it's hard to develop on this unless you do this kind of site work, and this is what a slope means. That's what you see often. That's not gonna be something that's going to cause a legal hurdle, I think, in the future. That's not the wording I'm suggesting, I'm just saying in general terms. But the more strict you get, then the more problems you may have.
but this is not strict. I mean, this is,
I'm not saying that.
yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm just emphasizing. This is not strict. It's simply making people aware of the fact that there may be more costs involved, because that's what, when I see site prep, I think cost. So there may be more cost involved. If that guy does decide he wants to put that block on the mountain, he needs to think about that.
I do think it's cool to have information in here that X amount, 13% of our county has a slope of up to 16% there. I think it's cool that it says that 27% of our county has a 25% slope. That's kind of cool. But the part in purple that we have scratched through, the first one talks about flooding. The third one talks about density, and the third one talks about developing it all. I mean, we're talking about different criteria for different things, and that really needs to be done by the building department or by the developer himself, who knows good and well what he can and can't do because he's done it before or hadn't done it before. And for us to go and elaborate of things and elaborate in different ways. We're not even using the same criteria for the same percentage here.
So-
One, we're using talking about flooding. Well, why isn't flooding under 25%?
But that's scratched out, right? So we're not.
That's what I'm saying, is we should be taking this information out.
We take this
It
whole
is out.
chart
It is
out?
out.
Have we taken this whole chart out, Adam?
You're just taking
Well, they were
the
talking about
intense
putting,
words.
they were talking about, do we want to go this route? That's why it's in purple and not red.
That's correct. I didn't make any changes 101, just like, I think we kind of figured out with the population element. I'm not trying to put individuals, I'll just put any edits in front of you all and give it to you all. So right now, it's unedited. The purple stuff doesn't exist. The purple stuff that's struck through in the purple is currently there in your draft. If we wish to make that official, motion and vote it out. The stuff that's in purple that is not struck through is new language that you haven't seen before tonight. And if you wish to put that in there, we can certainly motion and vote that in there. If you wish to take it out, motion and vote it. If we want to, it's very fluid at the moment.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, I can certainly see taking out where we've designated specific thing, is in no danger of periodic flooding. I'm sure there's some folks in Nebraska probably thought that too. But,
True.
yeah, I mean, I'm all for taking out those specific things that's not suited for commercial or industrial development, because when we run out of land, we're gonna have to stick it anywhere we can find a spot. So, yeah, I can take that out. I think we need to let them know, about how much acreage there is.
That's cool information.
And so if it's stricken, we can make a motion to take it out, correct?
So the wording is good. It's just this chart is what really throws a wrench in things.
No, I like the chart. Right now, everything in purple is still sitting there in our content, and we're having to discuss whether we are going to in fact take out the stuff that's stricken. And we're saying, do we want to put in the stuff that is underlined? If I understand correctly
Yeah,
what we're doing.
and I, for one, like what is added because it sort of draws attention without saying you can or can't do this. Whereas what is stricken is a little bit more, you know, it is important to note that soils with no slope. You could just say, however, soils with no slope, that's open-minded. If that's the wrong word, but anyway. This would be a case where I could easily say, let's make a motion and simply remove everything that has been struck through and add the wording that is in purple that has not been struck through.
Yes. That's,
If I may, so since there's other stuff on 6.8 about, what, can we just stick
Yeah.
to maybe just
Yeah.
say that on 6.7? I know, that way we don't conflate the issues, that way
Okay,
it
yes.
gives us more
on
discussion
6,
about
7,
it.
That'd be great.
So just say on 6.7 in regards to slope, we do that, what we just said, and then we'll look at 6.8 afterwards.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I felt the same way about what was on 6.8, but we'll do 6.7 at once if you like. I'll make that motion on 6.7. That we move what is written purple that has been struck through and include what is in purple that has not been struck through.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
For discussion, if everybody has read 6.8, is there a reason why we're not including that?
Just for simplicity.
Just didn't want anybody to all of a sudden come up, but we can do it all together, it's fine with me, I just wanna make sure that y'all are happy with it, and we had that proper discussion about it, so.
By the contributions and discussion, I'd like to have a definition of slope, involved in this document if we're gonna put numbers on slope.
So if we wanna amend that motion,
Okay. Do I need to amend it, or?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll amend my motion so that we remove the writing in purple that has been struck through, add the writing in purple that has not been struck through, as well as including a definition of slope.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I do not agree with putting a definition in here. If you don't know what a slope is, then you're up the creek. I mean, it's just trying to make this document a little more specific than it needs to be.
If you don't have a definition, the numbers are meaningless, you just as well say it's hilly.
But I just don't think we need to be putting definitions of slope in this. This is not an ordinance document. This is a informational page that says our land slopes. And we don't have to go into specific what a slope is. I mean,
It's not what a slope is, it's how you calculate the slope, is what he's wanting in there.
that's up to
so
building
that-
codes and the developer that's,
But
if
you
he
can't
wants to
figure
build a
out what
house from
25%
here down.
slope is if you don't know how to calculate it.
That's not the comprehensive plan's job. It's the people in building codes and planning to tell these people that there is a 50-degree slope down through there. The comp plan should not be stating all that stuff. That's adding words in it that it doesn't need to be in there.
I'd like to call for the vote.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Okay. I don't call for the vote.
It'd be a powerful tool to have. All right, enough of that. Call for the vote.
Supermajority meaning,
Make a motion to call for it. But it sounds like y'all are about done with your debate anyway, so.
supermajority meaning,
Meaning that 5 of y'all would have to say, yeah, we want to vote now in this debate. So the purpose of that is someone's just rambling, one person's rambling on and on and on and on. Someone says, all right, I call for the vote. So you have a motion for that, and 6 people say, yeah, let's vote. And so that stops that person from talking. That's it.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that, but
okay,
I think we,
so is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Going to 6.9.
said, well, let's do 6-8, right? You need 6-8?
We would do six, I thought that was.
That was
in
included.
this.
Oh, it was included?
Yeah, you included it in
Yeah, that
your
was-
motion.
You did, okay, cool.
If I may, since we've done this, could I ask that maybe we take a 5-minute recess? Just so people can use the restroom, since we're about to get into the goals, objectives, and, you know, the long part.
So we need to
Sorry,
take a
Michael.
motion. All right, I need a motion for 5-minute recess.
So move. I move for a recess of 5 minutes or less.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The video camera and recording is still going on.
So we can't do anything.
Are you leaving?
Okay. And see, I thought since they had a line through them, they were already struck, so.
It was a little confusing.
Newer calisthenics.
You ready, Adam?
Yes, sir.
Need a motion to reconvene?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we're on 6-9, or you wanna, because that wasn't included in the last motion, was it? I mean, I've only seen one purple area since.
I make a motion that we add the wording as expressed.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move on over to 618, I think it is. Oh, that's Bad Creek. Where did we?
Was 18?
Well, that's the
That's what he
page
said.
that we need to go.
Are we already to goals and objectives, or are we?
I know there's one.
No, we still got some more.
38 and 39, 638,
Yep,
639.
that's the next one, I think.
Moving right along.
Holy cow.
Yeah, 638 and 639.
I believe this speaks to Mr. Smith's Kiwi Talksway enhancement thoughts from last meeting.
And I would simply make a motion that we include this wording as written.
And I'll second that one.
Any discussion?
We just finished reading it real quick.
Does everybody understand what this is about?
Excuse me.
Why don't you enlighten us?
Okay, I'll try to. When they did the relicensing program, in one of the negotiating, or they got together with Duke Energy, and what they did was they said, we would like to be sure that we are protecting the natural areas and that we are encouraging wildlife around the lake. And so they've been putting fish attractors down. They've been doing some nesting for some particular kinds of birds up in the northern part of the lake, and they've been very successful. If, say, a company or a group comes together and says that they want funds for certain types of native plants around the shoreline, they can go to this group and get the money for it. Duke has put up an enormous amount of money, and the people that put docks around the lake are also have to pay a certain amount of money that goes into this fund also. So I think it's a good program to be put in the comp plan.
Excuse me. So we have a motion, we have a second.
Yeah, I'll second it,
Okay.
sure, yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay.
And just FYI, there is a bald eagle nesting on Crystal Lake.
Really? Oh, wonderful.
So everything that we can do to bring those kinds of things back is certainly a benefit.
I think the next we have is on 648.
So I make a motion that that be included, since we would certainly want folks to know that we are participants in that program.
Yeah, I think we voted on that.
Did we already?
Yes, Gwen, I think you voted for it.
For which one?
This,
For the flood insurance?
yes, the enhancement program.
What line is that on?
Oh, yes, sir.
That's on.
The next one?
The 648.
648 is the flood insurance program.
Yeah.
Just accept the wording as it is in the document.
Yeah, that's, motion to just include that's worded.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
I believe we're at 6.2.4, sir.
Point two, point
correct?
four.
Which is on on page 650, it's on page 52, and it's the first full goal up there, or objective up there.
Okay. We're on objective 6.2.4, continue to promote reasonable access to Oconee County's public natural amenities for residents and visitors.
Are we gonna stay with our same pattern of getting rid of continue and just have promote?
That's,
I think it just makes it look, I mean, if we're gonna strike it in parts, we should just strike it in all of it.
I have a question. Just as a reminder, the black text is directly from the current comprehensive plan. The blue text was developed per the focus group meetings. The red text was by the consultants. And the green text was added per the planning commission. But I see green text here that is stricken through, so it was added and then strucken through?
So we're there at 6234 up there, right above it, is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about I see a lot of green text that's strucken through.
So the green text was, that's what the first draft was that I gave you. We had to pick a color. So like in the first draft of this that I handed you, it said, and I'm just gonna look on the very top of page 52, because there's an example of it right above where we're working. So right here, continue to is struck through.
Okay, so we've already gotten, never mind. So
Yeah.
we're on so the stricken through part, is what we covered last.
Yeah, I'm running out of colors of the wheel to add to this. I
Gotcha.
apologize. So it's the edits from last meeting that are in there.
Okay.
Right here.
So we're gonna,
6.2.4.1, first strategy.
if I may, sir, we wanted to strike continue to, is that correct, Ms.
And
Lyles?
just have it to read, promote reasonable access to Oconee County's public natural amenities for residents and visitors.
Just motion about it, please.
I make the motion to change that.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Where are we, Frankie?
We're starting on 6.2.4.1 strategy and working our way down to 6.2.4.4.
Just on the time frame, I would say that 6.2.4.1 should be ongoing. 6.2.4.2, I would like to see the review perhaps done, say, by 2025? Or,
If I may,
yes, sir.
if we haven't necessarily addressed the timeframes for completion,
Okay.
since we have all these goals. So kind of in my head, we discussed this kind of at the beginning of this, is that once we get all these draft of the goals put together, that way we can see what makes the most sense to get completed in the same time frame. Of course, we can do that, just for consistency, we've kind of been avoiding it.
Okay, gotcha.
Is everyone okay with the wording in the strategies from 6.2.4.1 to 6.2.4.4?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to 6.3. Preserve, protect, and enhance the quality and quantity of the water resources of Oconee County. First objective. Do we want to strike out continue in that first one?
Yes.
6.3.1.
Yes, and simply put expand.
I I'd like to suggest that we strike out and reduce and say thereby reducing the risk of contamination of surface and groundwater sources.
How about just in order to? Would that work?
I was looking at 6.3.1.
But that would be an incorrect statement, though.
Okay.
Sewer is much higher risk of contamination of surface water than septic systems.
Had a rather large spill here not too long ago, down in Conner Ross, I think.
Matter of fact, a study was done that they don't want more septic systems near the lake. I'm sorry, more sewer system near the lake. A pipe breaks and it contaminates a tremendous amount in a short period of time, whereas a septic system, the neighbors are gonna complain well before it has any level of contamination to the lake.
So if we just said expand sewer service to additional areas as feasible, period. Is that kind of what you're looking at? Because it gets rid of the
Yeah, I like that.
contamination?
Because if that's not rooted in science, then we don't need it in there.
So I need a motion to take that, to change that.
I so move.
Well, if that be the case, would we not need,
Really, the
is the expansion of sewer service got anything to do with quality and quantity of water resources?
Not really. The expansion of sewer systems is for higher density development and more commercial development.
So if we're not, if that's not what it's for, then we don't need that objective under there, right?
And this is just me being a planner. I would say a higher density is probably better for the environment as a whole. We have to drive less much. 123, if it was all like a little village, we wouldn't have the issues that we have now. So you reduce dependence on stuff. But I can definitely see your point. Like, it just makes sense to, if we're not gonna say that it affects water, why would we have it right there? But I think that's up to you all at the moment. I don't see an issue with being in there.
So leave it as a expand sewer service where as feasible.
And stop right at that point and didn't get rid of the rest of it.
That's what I would. It does affect our natural resource by creating higher density in smaller locations, smaller footprint.
You're just putting a period after the word areas?
I think it should read, expand sewer service to additional areas as feasible, period.
Period.
There you go.
And delete the rest of it.
Yes.
You need a motion.
I make the motion that it read, expand sewer service to additional areas as feasible, period.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6.3.1.1.
Well, if that be the case, we would need to strike to minimize the need for septic tanks where conditions are not suitable or water sources may be compromised under 6.3.1.1. But again, if that be the case, then why are we doing this under natural resources?
That's fair. Don't know where else we would put septic systems. I think there is some water quality, sir.
What about
Oh, but we're
housing?
not dealing with septic systems, we're dealing with sewer, right?
What about the housing element?
That's certainly, that's,
Yeah, I would think that this would be more appropriate, perhaps in the housing element.
Or do we have like a commercial element?
so if we wanted to work through the wording on this stuff here, and then we can just
Transferred.
motion over, that way it's, when you all see this again, you'll be like, oh,
Right.
that's when they came, yeah, I'll run it Vassar people, I don't see, I like the goal in here personally, just from a, like expanding sewer service. I think it's a good thing to have. I think where it sits
Well,
in the document, I think
And
house
that,
is a great
maybe
place
it
for
needs
it.
to go back into the, because this one's water, right, basically? Or is this all? No, this is all natural resources.
Is all of them.
So perhaps we need to go, it needs to go in 6.2.
Yeah,
I
because
think
sewer
that these
system would
goals,
increase economic opportunities, right?
Wouldn't increase
Well, it is definitely, I mean, in other words, it does drive more intense development. So, but by having sewer, you're not limiting how, I mean, you're concentrating what you can do with it rather than expanding it all over the place because you gotta have X amount for all the drain fields.
Yeah, I think it fits better in 6.2.3.
Or 6.2, yeah, okay.
Increase economic opportunity.
Are you okay with that, Mr.
Oh,
Taylor?
yeah, that's completely up to y'all. We wanna move, move objective 6.3.1, or move the
Well,
entire
just
goal.
move the entire goal
Let me move goal 6.3 to,
under 6.2.3. No, that doesn't
no,
work either.
it'd be under 6.2.
That would have to be under
Right.
6.2. Well, that's land resources.
Right, it all falls into land for it, so we can make that part of 6.2. I mean, septic tank sewer, that's land, that takes care of land. I mean, it's on, they're on land, give or take.
So, in other words, maybe what we need to do is come back over here and put some of the same strategies that we have under 6.2 or 6.2.3. In order to protect the water, we're doing the same thing. You know, provide appropriate assistance from county departments and agencies in efforts to identify and preserve significant waters, whatever. This is gonna take a little bit of thought, but, and then come over here, preserve, and then move that 6.3.1 under 6.2.1 or 2, whatever. And then we would strike, under 6.3.1.1, you would simply strike, to minimize the need for septic tanks where conditions are not suitable or water sources may be compromised.
If I may. Mr. Markovich just pointed out, we could put it in community facilities if we were gonna have septic could go, or sewer lines could go under community facilities, if that was another place you all would wish to put it. Just another option out there, just.
And then you could simply put 6.3 as, leave it alone, and put something. You know, you've got the work with public conservation partners to identify additional significant natural resources. There are plenty of strategies that you could add under 6.3 to preserve, protect, and enhance the quality and quantity of the water resources of Oak County. Because we don't want to take that out. We've got to protect the water, right?
Right.
But we could move the sewer part to community facilities so that it's not the sole part of just take that entire 6.3.1. Well, never mind, we've got 6.3.2, so we're good.
Right, and if I
Just
may,
put
the
that
reason
under
why it
community.
is the sole thing in there, because that's all the kind of input we got so far. So we are, if you all have a thought, like we need to make another Lake Kiwi, this is the place for it kind of thing. So there's been limited input. We'll get more input as we go along, of course. And I guess probably why it was thin to begin with, because what is, like, natural resources, we want to preserve the view, great, what's that take? So for preserve water resources, it's thin, and unfortunately, our septic and sewer are taking it up, because that's, well, the only things that really been talked about, so.
Would this be the place then to put that we maintain sewer facilities and upgrade periodically in order to ensure in the event of catastrophic whatever, we don't have what they've had in some other places where,
Yeah, I mean, that's, things like that can, or we don't necessarily just have to focus on the sewer part, the poop part of it. We can focus on or whatever else you want as well.
So, for example, if we're managing the water and the clean water, then we would work with building codes to ensure the silt fence regulations are
Are
intact or
enforced.
something like that.
Which, yes, we know there's not there. We know there's not, yes.
and at this point, I mean, that would take a tremendous amount of time for us to sit here and come up with those things. Would it be perhaps that you could come back with some that are already out there that would help do this? It's like I would not have thought of silt fences, but certainly that is a place to put it.
I can look for a variety of goals from other comprehensive plans, since ours was kind of thin on it, and kind of show you what other people have done.
Well, I'm thinking more strategies under that goal.
Or strategies under that
I'm
goal,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
I really like the way that they're choosing to put this out here. I know this is a little 30,000-foot level, but like, a lot of comprehensive plans just have goals. Like, this has strategies and objectives and like timeframes and how to get there. So I'll go dig around a little bit more, see what we can find.
Well, some of the existing things that we're doing, if we're preserving and protecting the quality of water in Oconee County, we're working with Duke on shoreline management practices, where we have county regulations with vegetative buffers that help manage the chemicals or toxins or whatever fertilizers that get into the water through that vegetative buffer.
We might want to put in here something about preserving and protecting freshwater wetlands, because those are your filtration.
Sure. We can certainly add something about that as well.
So are we leaving 6.3.1.1 in there?
It's not a correct statement.
So we're taking it out completely?
I think we're going to take all that and put it in with community system, or community whatever.
I mean, it's great that we want to do, all supportive of doing sewer systems.
In the wrong place.
It just doesn't belong here, yeah.
Are we gonna go ahead and amend the wording so that when it moves, or are we just gonna address it when we move it?
I think we should just move it out of here and into somewhere else and address it then as appropriate with the goal.
Okay. So we move it to community facilities, we move it to housing, we move it to
Personally, I think that
Chicago.
the reason for sewer is commercial development, more intense housing. It could be whether that's called community development or whether that's called housing. I don't know necessarily the appropriate one until we get there.
Okay, well, we can just hang on to it. We can just leave it right here. If we're not sure where exactly we want to put it,
But we want it somewhere else.
but we want it somewhere else, why don't we just kind of put a little bookmark on this? Why don't we can just let it be, and we'll just, when we get to the next place where you think or you have a thought about it tonight and bring it up the next meeting, I hate just to pull it out and say, we'll do with this at some other point in time. So if we're gonna talk, we can just, I'll make sure to remind you of community facilities, economic development, if that's I don't know if that's necessarily the best place for it, but could be. And when we look at housing again, I'll certainly make a note to bring it up to y'all.
So we're talking about 6.3.1.1 and 6.3.1.2, or just the one?
Well, we're talking about the whole objective, 6.3.1, plus the two strategies that are underneath it going elsewhere.
Okay, so we're talking about the whole objective.
Move to be determined.
So our next objective is 6.3.2. Monitor monitor and maintain and improve water quality and quantity to meet the needs of county residents, employers, and institutions.
And I would make the recommendation that certainly on, that under 6.3.2.1, we would include the Oconee Soil and Water Conservation District as a accountable agency. Actually, I would put that on all three of these, four of these for the county. Well, first four, excuse me.
You want to put it in just 2.1 or 2.2 also?
No, yeah, I'd like to see it put in 6.3.2.1, 6.3.2.2, 2.3, and 2.4.
About 2.5.
2.5, I think you've got your Army Corps of Engineers where you're talking about high-density residential development near lakes. I think you got enough folks there to take care of that.
Well, let's do it.
Do you need a motion? I make a motion that we include the Oconee Soil and Water Conservation District as a part of the accountable agencies under objectives 6.3.2 with 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4.
Second.
So I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so
If I may, sir. So 6.2.3.4, right there, I think that's a great little sleeper that, I mean, it seems pretty innocuous. Utilize incentives, technical assistance, and regulations to promote sustainable environmental best practices by individuals, businesses, and developers to maintain and improve water quality. That says nothing, but it says a lot. Like, you could definitely find programs, grants, federal dollars, things like that, and say, okay, well, we have that incentive out there, and we have the backup of it. I'm just trying to point out little things. It's just one sentence, but that could be a grant for us to make a new park or something like that. It's an important document. I I like that one. I think 6.3.2.4 is something that you all should probably keep in your back pocket somewhere down the line. Just my 2 cents.
So 6.3.2.5 was okay with everyone?
Gwen,
Yes, sir.
let me ask you, 6.3.2.3, does the riparian issue come into that?
I think it fits better over here under 6.3.3.
Okay.
I think we, under that, the point one, establish strategies and adopt measures necessary to create a framework for the efficient implementation of erosion and sediment control regulations. And that would be under objective 6.3.3. I would like to add again the Oconee Soil and Water Conservation District under strategy 6.3.3.1.
That's your motion?
That's my motion, yes, sir.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Are we finished with 6.3.2 and all of the strategies associated with that?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, sir, unless you have something.
Have we voted on 5?
Apparently
I think
so.
everybody liked it.
There's no changes or anything, so we're actually at 6.3.3.2, correct?
be interesting.
I was gonna say, and I think that's
Do we
fine.
have to list the municipalities under accountable agencies for 6.3.3.2? Isn't Seneca having to go to this or something?
Seneca will, I believe Scott Carroll came here a month or two ago and kind of spoke briefly about this. I believe Seneca could be placed in an MS4 upon the next census. So in like 2021, 22, whenever that comes out. The county stormwater management falls outside of there, but I'm not against putting the,
Because
putting
he
the
would be a
city
good
in there.
resource. If they're having to implement it before we implement it, then
All right.
he'll have knowledge of it. to
And
help
certainly it
us
would be
out.
nice to work with them so
Okay,
that at
just
least we're
asking a
not
question.
double building something,
Yeah.
if that's what it comes to.
Like looking at the power lines down 123.
Okay, does
Sorry.
anyone have any objection for Mr. Markovich speaking for just a second?
Please.
A second.
You're on.
It's 20 till 8.
Yeah, I know.
We're on Metro.
Thank you, Thomas Markovich. Primarily, the main function of what's gonna happen when we go over the population element is the MS4s. Now, obviously Seneca has an MS4. There are other MS4s in the county. That's gonna be the primary one that's gonna be affected. Now, whether there's not regulation that's been developed in order to handle it like a county-wide mechanism, because we don't have an MS4 in the county per se at all. So, I mean, all you've got, I mean, all the MS4s are is municipal separate, stormwater system. That's all it is. It's about stormwater. And so, and what they're gonna end up doing, I can promise you, is that as soon as it comes into effect, they're gonna pass a regulation in that jurisdiction, and they're gonna start charging people money for stormwater. That's it. That's what's gonna happen. So, I don't see how the county goes beyond that because you don't have an MS4. And I don't know when, at what point, the county would ever have an MS4, because it's generally within the municipalities.
Thank you, Tom.
That and our neighboring counties already have them. Could we list them as,
Pickens, apparently
resources?
Pickens has it.
Yeah. Well, I don't guess they would be
Could you say
accountable, but-
adjoining, whatever?
But does the counties have them, or is it just municipalities there and the
I know
counties?
Anderson County does,
The whole entire county has one.
I'm pretty sure, because they have extra strict regulations for stormwater when it comes to agriculture. So it'd have to be county.
And I would think that it would be nice to add adjoining counties.
But we can't make them accountable agents.
Yeah, we can't make them accountable, that's true. They would simply be included in conversations, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost all of our, as was pointed out to me, I didn't realize, I mean, I suppose I realized, but we are almost an island. I mean, we're very isthmus-like or like Panama-like. We're surrounded by a lot of water. In case anybody didn't know.
Can I suggest, Mr. Chairman, that when we reach 6.3.4, maybe we call a halt? We don't have this. Anybody else, or we want to go right to the finish line?
Oh, well, we're almost at the finish line.
I
aren't we?
think
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
let's just finish
I'm-
this page.
Page is the finish line. So,
I have another 15 pages I didn't actually provide them
No.
back.
And we'll vote on his.
I still have the mallet up here. Okay, so we're gonna stick with 6.3.3.2?
Yeah, I think we just said add the municipalities as simply, we need to work together with them if something comes about so that we're not double building or double, whatever. No point in reinventing the wheel.
So we need that as a motion.
Please, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, sir, I make that as a motion that we add municipalities under accountable agencies.
A second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? 6.3.4, manage water quality and quantity and quality to ensure efficient utilization and appropriate conservation of the county water resources.
That's another one I would simply like to make the motion that we add the Oconee Soil and Water Conservation District to strategy 6.3.4.1 and 6.3.4.4.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
And I would also, if I may amend that motion, add it to 6.3.4.7 as well.
Do you need a second to the amendment? How does that work?
I don't know. If you'd like-
Seconded, the motion was already seconded, it was already motioned, they amended it, nothing changed that you all have, agree with. Discussion?
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that would move us to 6.3.5 objective.
Question.
Yep.
On 6.3.4.2, it's talking about the Lake Kiwi watershed, but it's got the Corps of Engineers. Does Corps of Engineers have any jurisdiction on Lake Kiwi?
Limited.
No.
I'm sure they have some, no,
It's
probably
limited.
not.
Very limited.
Because all the
We
water
just
goes
strike
into
them?
Kiwi.
No.
Oh, well.
I was gonna say, can we instead explore partnerships to develop a master plan for preserving the surrounding lake, the watershed of the surrounding lakes, including Lake Kiowee, Lake Jocassee, and Lake Hartwell?
For example, there is a procedure during drought time. I mean, Kiwi does flow to Hartwell, which is Corps of Engineers, so there is a working relationship there.
So that's your amendment, Ms. Glenn,
Is it an amendment or is it a motion?
or your motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we explore partnerships to develop a master plan for preserving the watersheds of all the lakes, including Kiowee, Jocassee, and Hartwell. And any other little teeny tiny ones in there that anybody wants to get involved with.
Yeah.
I got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. Anything else on 6.3.4? Okay, we'll move down to 6.3.5, minimize flooding risk to county residents and business owners through the protection of floodplains and floodways.
And I think we just took care of that in 6.3.4, right? So,
Run that by us again, Gwen?
I'm just saying, I mean, in other words, it's well worded, it's complete, and we have indicated that we are going to protect the floodplains and floodways, so I think we got it covered, right? I'm not saying we need to take it out, I'm saying it's good, like it is.
Oh, okay, all right.
And we are indicating that we're going to do that, so. Does that sound right, Mr.?
So both strategies under that one is good.
Mhm.
Let's go to 6.4.
And my only addition on 6.4 would be, under accountable agencies, I would like to add community resources to the list of, so I'll make the motion that we add community resources, private.
What?
Private entities, community resources, charitable groups, et cetera.
Private, okay, gotcha.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. let's see, public outreach, district meetings, Mr. Adam?
Certainly, so I'll be brief with this. We had one district meeting here last week. We had 5 or 7 people show up, had about 2 hours worth of conversation, hour and a half worth of conversation. I'm glad we had them. They were glad to come. We had a good, it was a very personalized conversation. And I hope you all are able to come to the next ones as they come about. They all have been noticed as public meetings, so if quorum occurs, no big deal. I've went ahead and noticed them as public meetings already.
I would suggest if they're in your district, that you try to attend the meeting, if possible, unless something is to where you can't. It just, I think whoever's district it shows up in the next one should be there. Just shows that we're in, in favor of this, and we're trying to learn as much as we can about it, so. All right, the survey for population housing results?
Sure, we got almost 300 surveys over the course of about a month or so, which is really good. I mean, and we're going to do a new one each month or so. And Ms. Harrington here is working on the next one as we go here. I got all the data back, and there's 10 questions with 300 respondents. I'm not good with math, but that's a bunch of data points I'm trying to play with here and try to figure out the best way to show it to you all in the most digestible format. So it's some of the information I think is interesting, but I haven't had a chance to really look at it as a whole. So that should be coming for the next meeting. I should have some nice little charts and graphs for you for next meeting.
All right, is there any old business? Any new business?
Census of Agriculture came out from 2015, 2017. It's well worth a look. It's a much data, but just Google it and just let somebody else analyze the data for you if you want. But it's well worth the look to see what's going on with our farms and farmers.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
We're all a little slow on that one.
All those in favor say aye.
This is a long meeting.
He just wasn't sure he wanted to adjourn.